In the shadowy corridors of bureaucracy, there exists a man who defies explanation, a figure so flawlessly integrated into the fabric of government that he seems almost invisible. On the surface, he is the epitome of reliability. Punctual, meticulous, and respected by colleagues who see him as a model employee. His records are spotless, his background impeccable, his reputation unblemished. But beneath this veneer of perfection lies a mystery so profound it challenges the very notion of identity itself. How can someone so seemingly ordinary harbor a past filled with darkness so deep it was erased from all traces of history? This man has no history before the age of 27. No school records, no medical files, no family history, no digital footprint to betray his origins. It's as if he stepped into the world fully formed, an adult with no past, yet somehow possessing the skills, discipline, and demeanor of someone who has lived 1,000 lives. The authorities who once hunted a notorious hitman believed him dead, eliminated in a violent ambush. His name struck from every official record. The legend of the ghost blade faded into whispered folklore. But what if the man they mourned had only vanished, not died? What if he had reinvented himself so perfectly that no one, not even those closest to him, could tell the difference? As the story unfolds in the form of a documentary video, viewers are pulled into a web of deception and intrigue. How does someone erase their entire past? How do they slip into society so seamlessly, integrating, working, even excelling, while hiding a criminal history so heinous it once made them one of Japan's most feared hitmen? The idea seems impossible, yet the evidence suggests otherwise. Piece by piece, investigators uncover startling clues: disappearances, altered records, manipulated databases that reveal this man's true identity. He is not just hiding from his past. He has obliterated it, creating a new life inside the very system that once hunted him. This story raises a chilling question. If someone can erase their entire history, how many others are out there, hiding behind the masks of ordinary life? How do you catch a killer who has deleted the very concept of who he used to be? And what does it say about the nature of identity, trust, and the thin line between order and chaos? The answers are as unsettling as they are impossible to ignore. As the silence settled over the room, a faint hum of the city's distant noise reminded us that life outside continued unaffected. Yet something inside us felt shaken to its core. The idea that someone could completely erase their past, wipe away every trace of who they once were, left an unsettling question hanging in the air. How do you hunt someone who has become a blank slate, an unknown entity hiding behind a carefully crafted illusion? It's as if the very fabric of identity has been torn apart, replaced with a blank canvas that's impossible to read or predict. In moments like these, the lines between truth and deception blur, revealing how fragile our sense of trust truly is. We start to wonder, are there others out there, too, living among us, their histories erased, their motives hidden? The thought is chilling, yet it pushes us to reconsider what we think we know about ourselves and others. If someone can vanish from the record, what stops them from reappearing unrecognizable with a different purpose entirely? That's the terrifying power of total erasure. It renders the past meaningless, making every new move unpredictable and dangerous. If this story resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment sharing your opinion or a personal experience related to the themes of identity and trust. Your participation is what keeps this conversation alive and helps more people discover these intriguing questions. And if you're finding value in these reflections, don't forget to like the video. Your support encourages us to continue exploring these complex topics. By subscribing to the channel, you're not only staying connected to more stories like this, but also helping build a community that questions, learns, and grows together. Remember, every comment, like, and subscription fuels the journey we're on. So keep sharing your voice. The story isn't over yet, and there's much more to uncover as we delve deeper into the shadows of the unknown. The legend of the Yakuza assassin was built on a foundation of unwavering discipline and ruthless precision. Within the ranks of the organization, he was known simply as the Ghost, a moniker earned through his ability to strike silently and vanish without a trace. No one saw him coming. No witness ever escaped his careful attention. His reputation was forged in the fires of countless missions where discretion was paramount, and failure was not an option. Whether infiltrating rival clans' territory or eliminating targets on the outskirts of Tokyo's underworld, he operated with meticulous care, leaving behind no clues, no witnesses, and no second chances. The ambush that cemented his myth occurred under the cover of night in a remote industrial district. Intelligence had pinpointed a gathering of rival gang members, and the Yakuza leadership decided to eliminate the threat with surgical precision. The assassins' team set their trap, knowing that the slightest mistake could cost them everything. As the enemy group moved into the kill zone, silent and unsuspecting, the assassins struck with lightning speed. Using silenced weapons and expertly coordinated timing, he took out key targets one after another, leaving chaos and confusion in his wake. The scene was a masterclass in destruction and concealment. Flames licked the night sky as a vehicle exploded in a ball of fire, the blast obliterating evidence and erasing any trace of the assassin's involvement. Police and rival clans arrived hours later, only to find a scene of utter devastation. The burned-out vehicle was the centerpiece, its charred remains smoldering amidst scattered debris. Nearby, investigators found blood spatters and broken weapons, but no bodies, only the aftermath of a well-executed ambush. Falsified remains had been planted at the scene, meticulously crafted to suggest that the assassin had perished in the inferno. Every detail pointed to a clean escape, a disappearance that seemed almost supernatural. Authorities and enemies alike believed the assassin had gone up in flames that night, his body consumed by the inferno. The evidence was overwhelming. The burned vehicle, the blood evidence, and the carefully planted remains. No one dared to question the narrative that he had been killed in a blaze of retribution. Rumors circulated that he had been caught in the explosion, his body incinerated beyond recognition. The police report was filled with certainty. There was no reason to suspect otherwise. The myth of his death grew stronger with each passing year, fueling stories of a ghost who had vanished into the shadows, presumed dead but never truly gone. In truth, the assassin had mastered the art of disappearance long before that night. His training had emphasized not only lethal efficiency but also the importance of leaving no trace. Every step he took was calculated, every move designed to create a false trail. His reputation inside the Yakuza was one of absolute discipline, an unstoppable force that struck swiftly and disappeared just as quickly. As the years went by, the myth persisted. A man believed dead, who had simply slipped into the darkness, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. The legend of the ghost was not just about his deadly skill. It was about his ability to become invisible, to become a story that would be told long after he had disappeared into death. The day he appeared in the government office was almost surreal. No one had seen him before, yet there he was, calm, composed, and fully integrated into the bureaucratic machinery. His punctuality was impeccable, arriving exactly at 8 a.m. every day. His polite nods and reserved demeanor earning quiet respect from colleagues who barely knew his name. Despite the scrutiny, he carried himself as if he belonged to a different world, one of order and precision. His credentials were spotless. A university degree in political science, clean background checks, and a flawless employment record. Yet, what truly set him apart was the absence of a past. No childhood records, no school transcripts, no medical files, nothing that traced his origins or early development. It was as if he had materialized out of thin air, fully formed and ready to serve. The authorities ran extensive investigations, but every effort to uncover his history yielded nothing. No family history, no criminal record, no social media presence, nothing to connect him to a previous life. This lack of history became an unspoken enigma within the department, a puzzle that gnawed at the edges of their understanding. His colleagues whispered about him in hushed tones, speculating whether he was a government experiment, a spy, or something even more clandestine. But no one could deny his efficiency. He completed tasks with meticulous care, never missing a deadline, always polite to the citizens he served. His work was impeccable, his demeanor unwavering, even under pressure. Yet, the question lingered: how could someone who had no past build such a perfect present? What invisible foundations supported his existence? As days turned into weeks, an unsettling curiosity grew among those who observed him. The more they learned about his professional conduct, the more they wondered about his origins. Was he a product of advanced psychological conditioning? Or perhaps a human being reconstructed from fragments of data designed to serve a specific purpose? The government's own records, which should have contained his history, remained eerily silent. It was as if he had always been there, a ghost in the system, seamlessly integrated but forever untraceable. Despite the mystery, he continued to perform his duties flawlessly, seemingly indifferent to the whispers and suspicions around him. His life was a carefully curated performance of normalcy, yet beneath that veneer, a profound question persisted. How does someone with no past forge a future so convincingly? Was his absence of history a shield, a weakness, or a form of ultimate control? The answer remained hidden, locked away behind his composed facade, leaving everyone to wonder whether he was a miracle, a mistake, or something entirely different. A perfect anomaly designed to challenge the very notion of identity itself. The hitman's methodical approach revealed an unsettling mastery over bureaucratic systems long thought to be outdated and frail. His first move was to exploit the antiquated paper trails that still lingered in forgotten vaults and dusty filing cabinets. He knew that many government agencies, especially those with limited digital infrastructure, maintained archives stored on microfilm, faded paper files, or in poorly secured storage rooms. By gaining access to these locations, often through bribed or coerced insiders, he methodically sifted through decades-old records, searching for any fragment of information that could be pieced together into a coherent identity. He discovered that many of these archives had been poorly maintained, with files missing pages, mislabeled folders, or simply misplaced over the years. Some records were stored in abandoned warehouses or crumbling basements, where neglect and time had taken their toll. The hitman's patience paid off when he uncovered a set of files belonging to a government worker who had mysteriously disappeared in the early 90s. These documents contained fragments of personal data, names, addresses, employment histories, that, although incomplete, were sufficient to reconstruct a convincing persona. However, the process was not merely about gathering physical documents. The hitman also exploited systemic weaknesses in interagency communication. Many government departments operated in silos, with little overlap or information sharing. He used this to his advantage by creating a web of indirect contacts and forged internal memos, which helped cover the gaps in the paper trail. He posed as a low-level administrative agent or a retired official, gaining access to internal digital systems that still retained some legacy data. These pre-digital files, often stored on aging floppy disks and early network servers, were surprisingly vulnerable. Many of these systems were poorly secured, with outdated passwords or no authentication protocols at all. The key was in the gaps, the missing links in the bureaucratic chain. The hitman knew that no modern security system could fully account for the chaos of obsolete records and disjointed communication channels. By meticulously cross-referencing old employment logs, tax records, and even utility bills, he assembled a patchwork identity that was both convincing and difficult to trace. He even managed to forge a handful of official documents, driver's licenses, social security cards, and work IDs that matched the reconstructed persona. What made his feat extraordinary was his understanding of the system's weaknesses and how to exploit them without leaving a trace. He maintained a low profile while subtly inserting this stolen identity into the fabric of local bureaucracy. Over time, he built a hidden foundation, an entirely fabricated but seemingly legitimate history that could be activated whenever needed. This reconstructed identity was a ghost of the past, a carefully crafted illusion that allowed him to operate unseen, blending seamlessly into the shadows of the very institutions designed to track and verify individuals. The entire process was a testament to his patience, ingenuity, and deep knowledge of bureaucratic flaws, a dark art of deception rooted in the decay of institutional memory. He knew that his position within the government gave him unparalleled access and control over sensitive information, which he exploited with meticulous precision. His office, cluttered with stacks of paperwork and flickering monitors, was more than a workspace. It was a fortress of secrecy. From this vantage point, he orchestrated a silent war against those who threatened his clandestine empire. One of his key tactics involved protecting aging Yakuza bosses who still held sway behind the scenes. These men, long past their prime yet still influential, relied on his covert assistance to shield them from investigations and rival factions. He used his authority to manipulate internal records, ensuring their names remained off official lists, their connections buried beneath layers of false documentation. He also took deliberate steps to erase incriminating evidence, digital footprints, transaction logs, communication histories, all meticulously deleted or altered. Whenever a new investigation was launched, he would subtly delay progress by rerouting inquiries away from sensitive areas or inserting red herrings into the reports. His influence extended into the realm of undercover operations. He rerouted agents assigned to certain missions, redirecting them to dead ends or into traps designed to discredit or distract them. This allowed the organization to operate with impunity, unchallenged by the authorities. Digital traces, the backbone of modern investigations, were his most vulnerable targets. He employed advanced hacking techniques to erase or encrypt data, ensuring that no digital trail could lead back to the organization or himself. Servers were subtly manipulated, backups overwritten, and logs falsified to make it impossible for anyone to piece together the full scope of his activities. His mastery of technology and bureaucratic procedures made him almost invisible within the digital landscape, a ghost who left no footprints. Throughout all this, he maintained the facade of a dedicated government official, someone committed to public service, yet secretly the architect of a shadow empire. His desk job was a carefully constructed smokescreen, a perfect camouflage that cloaked a lifetime of crime. Every document filed, every report approved, was part of a grand deception that kept his true motives hidden from colleagues and superiors alike. His operations were seamless, woven into the fabric of everyday government functions, enabling him to manipulate the system from within. In essence, he was a master of disguise, a man who used his official capacity not just as a cover but as a weapon. His motives were rooted in loyalty to the underworld, a desire to preserve the old guard of the Yakuza, and an unshakable belief that the system itself could be bent to serve his clandestine goals. His return was not a coincidence. It was the culmination of years spent weaving himself deeper into the fabric of the government, ensuring that his influence remained unassailable, his secrets well kept, and his enemies forever silenced. He knew that to truly reinvent himself, he had to shed every trace of the man he once was. The Yakuza identity was a heavy shroud, one woven with snarling pride, unyielding loyalty, and a fierce sense of belonging. Now, he worked tirelessly to erase that shadow, replacing it with a new persona built on discipline and calculated precision. His days began with meticulous routines, each action performed with deliberate calm. His body language was transformed, shoulders squared with purpose, movements controlled and devoid of any hint of aggression or familiarity. It was a silent language, one designed to convey neutrality and invisibility, rather than threat or camaraderie. Practicing new handwriting was a painstaking process. He studied official documents, corporate memos, bureaucratic forms, anything that would help him adopt a neutral, impersonal style. His pen strokes became precise, deliberate, devoid of any flair that might hint at a past affiliation. Every line was deliberate, every letter meticulously formed. This new handwriting was his signature of anonymity, a subtle but powerful tool to prevent recognition or suspicion. He immersed himself in learning perfect bureaucratic speech, adopting the cold, formal tone of a government official or a corporate drone. His conversations were stripped of emotion, replaced with carefully chosen words that maintained politeness but avoided personal connection. The language was a mask, polished, precise, and unambiguous. It was a barrier against revealing his true self, a way to blend into the background of endless administrative routines. Eliminating emotional triggers became an essential part of his reinvention. He conditioned himself to suppress any spontaneous reactions, anger, frustration, joy, that could betray his true feelings or identity. Every thought was filtered through a lens of discipline, every reaction controlled. The internal conflict was relentless. Part of him longed for the old camaraderie, the visceral adrenaline of his past life, but he knew that showing weakness or emotion could expose him. Instead, he maintained a stoic exterior, living with constant discipline as a shield and a prison. This constant regimen created a paradox. He was invisible to the world, an unremarkable bureaucrat, a faceless cog in the machinery. Yet he held an immense power, the ability to destroy anyone who dared to search for him or uncover his new identity. The knowledge that he could annihilate with a whisper, a single leak of information or a calculated strike, haunted him. It was a quiet, persistent burden, an internal war between the necessity of remaining unseen and the deadly potential of his influence. In the dark corners of his mind, he grappled with this duality. The man who once thrived on chaos and loyalty had become a ghost, a shadow that moved unseen but wielded unyielding strength. Every day was a balancing act, maintaining the illusion of normalcy while holding the weight of destruction beneath the surface. His reinvention was not just a disguise. It was a transformation into something more dangerous than before, an unseen force that could reshape the world if called upon, yet who remained forever in the shadows, forever silent, forever disciplined. It started with a seemingly innocuous detail, something so small it was easy to overlook. A forensic analyst, poring over the digital logs from a recent case, noticed an anomaly buried deep within the metadata. Hidden within a sealed file's history was an edit timestamp that didn't quite match the pattern. The file, which had been sealed overnight, showed signs of modification well after the official closing hours. At first, it seemed like a minor glitch, a corrupted timestamp, perhaps. But as she double-checked, a faint suspicion took hold. The file had been altered deliberately and precisely at a time when no one should have had access. Meanwhile, across the city, a police officer reviewing surveillance footage from the precinct's internal system paused on a particular frame. Something caught his eye, a faint smudge on a piece of handwriting that appeared on a report. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but when he compared it to other samples from previous reports, he noticed a startling similarity. The handwriting, the slant, the pressure points. These tiny details matched a known suspect's style, something that had been dismissed as coincidence before. Yet here, in this seemingly routine document, lay a clue that connected back to a person long thought to be out of the picture. Halfway across the world, a cybersecurity specialist was sifting through logs of deleted digital footprints. She uncovered an encrypted trail from a long-forgotten case, one that had been officially closed and erased from active files. But buried beneath layers of code and obfuscation was a faint digital signature, a remnant of a device that had supposedly been disconnected months ago. It was a ghost in the system, a detail too small to be noticed at first glance. Yet, this ghostly trace suggested someone had been tampering with the digital record, perhaps to hide or manipulate evidence. These disparate threads, each seemingly insignificant on their own, began to weave a pattern. A tiny discrepancy in a sealed file, a faint handwriting similarity, a long-deleted digital footprint, each one a loose thread, an almost invisible crack in the facade of order. But when viewed together, they formed a fragile web of suspicion. It was as if a silent whisper had started to ripple through the layers of the investigation, nudging the edges of certainty just enough to make the edges fray. The moment the system begins to crack is almost imperceptible, an almost dismissible detail that, if ignored, could allow the whole facade to remain intact. But once seen, it's impossible to unsee. The hunt is quietly ignited by that tiny, overlooked detail, an invitation to follow the faintest trail of truth. As the investigation pressed deeper, an unsettling pattern began to emerge, one that grew more disturbing with each passing hour. Every time the team uncovered a new piece of evidence or attempted to access a hidden archive, something seemed to shift. Files that had been carefully downloaded moments earlier would suddenly vanish without explanation. Digital footprints disappeared into the ether, leaving behind only ghostly echoes of their searches. It was as if the entire system was alive, watching, and playing a game of hide and seek with them. One investigator, Sarah, was the first to notice the pattern. She had been reviewing logs late into the night, cross-referencing access records from different terminals. Her eyes widened as she realized that every time she dug deeper into the suspect's activities, a particular file or record would suddenly become inaccessible. Not just temporarily unavailable, but completely erased. No trace, no backup, no recovery. It was as if the system itself was clearing a path for the suspect to escape. The chilling thought took hold. How could someone have such unfettered access? The model employee was supposed to be a trusted member of the team, someone with limited clearance. Yet, their access logs told a different story. He could reach into any classified archive, any sensitive document with ease. And the most horrifying detail was that he could erase himself from existence within the system at any moment. A click, a command, and he was gone, leaving no footprint, no digital footprint, no evidence of his presence. As days wore on, paranoia seeped into every corner of the investigation. The team began to suspect that the suspect was not just manipulating files, but was actively watching them. Perhaps through the same system they relied on to find him. Every time they accessed a file, they wondered, was he watching their every move? Could he see what they saw? The thought was almost too terrible to bear. It was as if the system had become a mirror of his mind, a living entity that knew their every keystroke, every question, every doubt. The investigators experimented with their own hacking attempts, trying to trace the suspect's digital trail. But each effort was met with silence, except for the faintest hint of interference. Files they uploaded or altered would suddenly vanish, or worse, they'd find themselves locked out of sections they previously had access to. The more they probed, the more it felt like an invisible hand was guiding their steps, steering them away from the truth. A sense of dread grew among the team. They no longer knew if they were hunting a person or a ghost. Every time they believed they had uncovered a lead, it evaporated into the void. Their confidence eroded, replaced by a creeping paranoia. Was the suspect one step ahead, watching through the very system they trusted? Were their own actions being manipulated, their investigations subtly sabotaged? The boundaries between their digital environment and the nightmare they faced blurred until it was impossible to tell where the system ended and the horror began. The investigation was collapsing into a nightmare, one they couldn't wake from. As they sifted through the digital debris, a flicker on one of the logs caught their attention. A timestamp that didn't quite match the rest. It was an anomaly, a tiny inconsistency buried deep within a tampered database entry. Their screens flickered as they cross-referenced the data, and suddenly, a fragment of an old Yakuza tattoo appeared briefly in a grainy surveillance footage recovered from a forgotten corner of the system. The image was faint, almost incidental, but enough to send a shiver down their spines. This wasn't just a rogue hacker or a corporate mole. It was someone with ties to a world they thought they'd left behind. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. The scope of the deception was far greater than they had imagined. The puppet master wasn't just manipulating data. They had woven a web into the very fabric of their investigation, creating false leads, planting false evidence, and turning their perceptions against them. Every step forward seemed to be leading them deeper into a trap, a labyrinth designed to crush their resolve. In that tense moment, they understood that the person behind this elaborate scheme was closer than they thought. Perhaps even someone within their own ranks. The evidence pointed to a figure with access, someone who knew the system intimately, who could erase traces and vanish without a sound. The clock was ticking, and with each passing second, the danger grew more imminent. They moved swiftly, coordinating their next steps with a mix of urgency and cautious suspicion. They knew they had to act before he slipped away again. But as they approached his office, the door was eerily silent. The room was spotless. No sign of struggle, no discarded papers, no fingerprints. His desk, once cluttered with papers and personal effects, was now meticulously cleaned. It was as if he had never been there. The agents exchanged tense glances. A quick scan revealed no new communications, no clues left behind. But it was then that one of them noticed something strange, an almost imperceptible glint on the edge of the desk. When they moved closer, they saw it. A small, freshly broken piece of plastic embedded in the wood. Carefully extracting it, they found it was a tiny chip, a component of a device used for creating new identities. It was a clear sign he was already in motion, preparing to vanish completely. As the realization sank in, the agents understood that they had been outmaneuvered at every turn. The man they sought was no longer in that office. He had already slipped into the shadows, cloaked behind a new identity crafted with ruthless precision. The game was far from over, but for now, the moment of revelation had crystallized their fears. This was a master manipulator, a ghost in the system, and they were running out of time to catch him before he disappeared forever. It's a haunting thought. If one skilled, determined individual like that Yakuza assassin could embed themselves so deeply within the machinery of government and go unnoticed for years, then how many others are out there, hiding in plain sight? The possibility that a clandestine network of operatives, each with their own dark agendas, could be lurking beneath the surface of our institutions is both chilling and unsettling. It raises questions about the integrity of the systems we trust and the safeguards we believe keep us safe. How many layers of deception are woven into the fabric of our daily lives? How many silent players are influencing decisions behind closed doors, their presence hidden from the public eye? This revelation should serve as a wake-up call. The line between the visible and the concealed is far thinner than we like to admit. Power structures, governments, and organizations are more vulnerable than ever to infiltration by those with malicious intent. The story we've uncovered is probably just the tip of the iceberg. The true scope of this clandestine influence remains a mystery, one that demands our curiosity and vigilance. It's up to us to question, to investigate, and to remain aware of what might be lurking just beyond our perception. Now, more than ever, we need to stay alert and skeptical. We must ask ourselves, who is really in control? And how many more are out there, quietly pulling strings, living among us without detection? The truth might be more frightening than fiction, but understanding it is the first step towards safeguarding our future. So I encourage you, don't keep this just as a story to watch and forget. Share your theories in the comments below. Like and subscribe to stay updated on the latest investigations and revelations. Together, we can uncover the hidden truths and shed light on the shadows that threaten to control us all. Remember, the question isn't just about that one assassin who slipped through the cracks. It's about the countless others who might still be hidden in the darkness, waiting for their moment to strike. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and never stop asking the hard questions.